Your might is nothing compared to mine. You understand so little. Or is it that you've forgotten so much? How empty your platitudes sound now that you find yourself trapped, like all the others of your kind. The hunt reaches its inevitable conclusion. The end of the Jedi is within my grasp. The Force is a tool, Jaden. Sometimes a weapon, sometimes a salve. Dark side, light side. These are distinctions of insignificant difference. Do not fall into the trap of classification. Sentience curses us with a desire to categorize and draw lines, to fear that after this be dragons. But that is illusion. After this is not dragons, but more knowledge, deeper understanding. Be at peace with that. My analyses of the Rule of Two Sith Apprentice, Darth Vader, will draw from his primary appearances in Episodes 1 through 6 of the Star Wars saga, including the novelizations, the tie-in comics, and the visual dictionaries. In addition, I will be referencing the Force Unleashed game series, including its novelizations, strategy guides, and comic tie-ins, Splinter of the Mind's Eye and its comic tie-in, and the Shadows of the Empire novel and comic tie-in. Furthermore, I will be referencing the following expanded universe novels: Dark Lord: The Rise of Darth Vader, The Rise and Fall of Darth Vader, the Coruscant Nights trilogy, The Last Jedi, no, not that one, the Last of the Jedi series, confusing I know, Death Star, and the short stories In His Image and Two-Edged Sword, among others. Then we have the comic series Dark Times, Purge, Empire, Rebellion, Tales, and what I refer to as the Darth Vader and Something Awesome series. Lastly, I will be examining Darth Vader, a 3D reconstruction log for detailed information on Vader's cybernetics. My analyses of the New Jedi Order Battlemaster Kyle Katarn will draw from his initial appearances in the Dark Forces game series, including the tie-in novellas, and its sequels, Jedi Outcast and Jedi Academy. Furthermore, I will be looking over his appearances in the New Jedi Order, Legacy of the Force, and Fate of the Jedi book series, as well as the standalone duology Crosscurrent and Riptide. Lastly, I will be examining the Tales comic short Equals and Opposites, and the article Legacy of the Force Preview 5 by Sterling Hershey and Gary M. Sarley. Background information will be pulled from Jedi vs. Sith, The Essential Guide to the Force, the New Essential Guide to Chronology, the original and new Essential Guides to Weapons and Technology, the original and new Essential Guides to Alien Species, and the Jedi Academy Training Manual, among many others. As should be obvious, my overall analyses will be pulled purely from Legends continuity, completely omitting all Disney canon material. In the case of Kyle Katarn, this is because he is not featured in any new canon material, his existence having been retconned while receiving an obvious derivative replacement in Kanan Jarrus. Though I will concede that Darth Vader is the one character that new canon has actually managed to get right, the official continuity's version of events is so radically different from Legends that the two sources are completely incompatible. As my analytical format is essentially biographical, assessing a character's feats chronologically in order to paint a picture not only of what they are capable of, but how they developed over time, this incompatibility is a problem. I'm not claiming that Legends continuity is absolutely flawless with no inconsistencies or contradictions, but these issues are minor compared to how utterly broken Disney canon is. Furthermore, Vader is so heavily featured within Legends that new canon material is basically redundant. There are certain fights and feats that I chose to omit to save time, and there are some that I know I missed, because Vader has fought so many people across so many storylines. With all of that out of the way, let us get underway. Darth Vader, Dark Knight of the Empire, and Kyle Katarn, the New Republic Battlemaster. If these two warrior titans of the post-Clone Wars era were to meet in single combat on neutral ground, who would win? Let's begin. A human male, Anakin Skywalker spent his first 9 years of life as a slave on Tatooine before being recruited into the Jedi Order, spending over a decade in training before being knighted at age 22. A mere 6 months later, he defected to the Sith, but suffered his catastrophic defeat on Mustafar almost immediately afterwards. The horrific injuries he sustained necessitating an extensive cybernetic reconstruction of his maimed body. By the time of his death at age 45, Darth Vader had spent 23 years locked inside his armor. When Anakin Skywalker was brought to the Emperor Palpatine Surgical Reconstruction Center on Coruscant, he was a limbless torso covered in catastrophic third-degree burns, his lungs seared by exposure to the superheated gases produced by Mustafar's lava rivers. He was fitted with prosthetic limbs, the burns were treated with synthetic skin grafts, his skeleton was augmented, and his lungs were effectively replaced by a respiratory implant and further supported by additional implants that regulated all of his other bodily systems. Additionally, Vader was afflicted by minor dark side degradation, specifically displaying the yellow-tinted eyes, though not only did he take pains to mitigate this by regulating his use of the dark side, but he was attempting to repair his damaged body with dark side healing. The functional center of Darth Vader's life support system was his helmet, which housed the external respirator mechanism, regulated his body temperature, and featured both audio and visual enhancers. Furthermore, the outer dome of the helmet was treated with Sith alchemy and has withstood direct lightsaber hits delivered by Dark Anile and the Darth Maul doppelganger while suffering only superficial damage. This was supported by his plated Durasteel pauldrons, chestpiece, codpiece, and greaves, which together with his heavy blast-dampening bodysuit could withstand anything short of a heavy power attack. The bodysuit itself could turn aside glancing blows while suffering only shallow rents in return, and his heavy-duty prosthetics functioned as additional armor, soaking up hits in place of his actual flesh and blood. Darth Vader's physical and athletic performance post-Reconstruction was a significant trade-off. On the one hand, his replacement limbs provided superhuman strength, allowing him to lift and throw adult humans and to punch holes through metal plating, while the squeezing strength in his right hand was further augmented by the Mandalorian crushgaunt he wore. But on the other hand, the weight of his armor restricted his movement, and the pneumatics in his prosthetics were occasionally slow, badly impairing his mobility and dexterity, to the point where he needed to call on the Force merely to walk, and running was almost impossible. Though he eventually became comfortably one with his suit, covering ground with flying leaps and learning to leverage his strength to unbalance opponents, his stiff movements allowed multiple adversaries to outflank him or slip inside his guard, necessitating a strong defensive focus in combat. Fortunately, between the protection afforded by his armor, his disposable prosthetic limbs, his reinforced skeleton, and the life support stabilizing his vitals, Vader possessed an incredible tolerance for pain and injury. To get an idea of just how tough he is and how much it takes to bring him down, look no further than his defeats. On Kessel, he took multiple hits and lost his right arm, but was completely unfazed and perfectly prepared to keep fighting, and was only brought down when the 3 remaining Jedi combined their powers and pounded Vader into submission with a sustained barrage of telekinetically thrown boulders. Against Galen Marek on board the Death Star, he was crushed under several tons of debris, took a lightsaber hit to the ankle, got his helmet torn off by a heavy power blow, had his bare face pressed against an energy shield, and was hurled across Palpatine's throne room, shattering a stone statue on impact. On Mimban, he suffered having his own kinetite blast deflected back into his face, which allowed Luke Skywalker to rush in and cut off his right arm before he could recover, with the dazed Vader tripping over his own severed prosthetic and falling into a well. Otherwise, Vader has survived vacuum exposure, flamethrower bursts, explosive blasts, a self-inflicted lightsaber thrust through his lower abdomen, and drew upon the dark side to sustain himself for several days after being buried alive without his respirator. However, as resilient as Vader was, his cybernetics left him with crippling weaknesses in other areas. The chest-mounted control panel that regulated his life support was a significant vulnerability, Rowan Shrine putting Vader on the defensive by targeting it, and the eventual Inquisitor Antonis Tremaine momentarily disabling him by literally pushing his buttons. Furthermore, the sensitive electronics within his armor could be overloaded by high-energy discharges, such as Force Lightning. Though he attempted to address this weakness by installing electrical insulation, it wasn't enough to prevent his defeat at Starkiller's hand on Kamino, or his death at Palpatine's hand on board the second Death Star. Lastly, his dominance in combat was wholly predicated on his mechanically enhanced strength, with Vader's worst-case scenario being a confrontation with a more physically powerful adversary, leading to his final defeat at the hands of Luke Skywalker, who used Dark Rage to bully through Vader's lightsaber defense and pound him into the ground, severely straining Vader's life support and hacking off his right hand with such force that he left a bend in Vader's prosthetic forearm. Despite this, Darth Vader's last act was a titanic physical feat when he heaved Emperor Palpatine over his head and cast him into the Death Star II reactor shaft, all the while enduring a continuous, high-intensity barrage of Force lightning. Despite sustaining fatal damage, Anakin Skywalker never faltered, and remained alive without life support for several long minutes afterwards. Jedi Battlemaster Kyle Katarn was also a human male, 67 years of age as of the conflict with Abeloth. Born on Sulon 23 years before the Battle of Yavin, Kyle was the son of the farmer Morgan, and inherited his father's latent Force sensitivity. At age 18, he enrolled at the Cliffside Academy on Carida, and trained for 4 years as an Imperial naval officer. Kyle's Force connection began to manifest itself during his Omega exercise, his last mission before graduation, and was fully awakened by his encounter with High Inquisitor Jarek during the ceremony. Kyle Katarn defected to the Rebel Alliance almost immediately afterwards, and after serving 6 years as a covert agent, he was bequeathed his first lightsaber and began an impromptu Jedi training gauntlet, his encounters with Jarek and his various Dark Jedi followers leading to rapid development as a Force wielder. In the wake of the conflict with the Sans Reborn 11 years after the Battle of Yavin, Kyle Katarn permanently joined the New Jedi Order under Grandmaster Luke Skywalker, having served for 33 years by 44 BBY. Kyle was a conventional humanoid, a combat veteran with a history of injury, but with no significant alterations or enhancements. He stood 1.8 meters in height and possessed a slim, athletic build, otherwise distinguished by his brown hair and beard, brown eyes, and fair skin. In addition to the Jedi robes he wore when attending official functions, Kyle dressed for the mission. When leading the Jedi strike team that ambushed Darth Kaitis on Coruscant, Katarn wore a skin-tight infiltration suit, its streamlined surface hardened against abrasion, intended for navigating the treacherous underlevels. However, Kyle typically favored casual civilian garb, consisting of a loose tunic tucked into brown breeches, his only armor being a light shoulder pauldron and padded wrist bracers. Instead, he relied on a Merson Munitions personal deflector shield for protection against blaster fire. Rather than dressing for battle, Katarn dressed to be inconspicuous. He was no Jedi, just a guy with a lightsaber and a few questions. Examining Kyle Katarn's physical capabilities, he was extremely well-rounded, displaying exceptional levels of strength, agility, and dexterity. His physical might was sufficient to fatally manhandle the diminutive Dark Jedi monkey lizard Pick and to contend with the Chistori Desan. His strength was best demonstrated when he smashed a Yuuzhan Vong warrior through a stone wall with a driving kick, and best expressed through his outer ring strong style. His agility was demonstrated through his acrobatics and footwork, a notable example being his use of the Ataru-related falling leaf technique to sidestep Inquisitor Jarek's reckless charge and deliver a one-hit kill. His dexterity was expressed through his lightsaber defense, performing high-speed blast deflection in battlefield situations, successfully delivering a flowing water counter against the Dark Jedi duelist Saris, and keeping pace with the fast stylist Tavion Axmus. When Seha Dorvald witnessed Katarn's battle with Darth Kaitis, she described an execution of techniques so flawless that it looked almost choreographed, a testament to the athletic ability that Kyle had retained to that age. That's not to say that Kyle Katarn has never gotten himself in over his head, as he has taken some serious hits. As a rebel agent on Nar Shaddaa, though he instinctively drew upon the Force to focus through the blaster wound he took to the shoulder, he was disabled by a grenade detonation, coming away with a severe concussion. Fortunately, Katarn could quickly recover from broader kinetic hits, bouncing back from the half-man Maw's flying body slam, and surviving a glancing hit from Jarek's Force Destruction blast. Most impressively, he not only survived a starship crash, but was in good enough shape to engage in a lightsaber duel almost immediately after regaining consciousness, even shrugging off a shallow lightsaber cut from Saris. Though Desan was clearly holding back on Artus Prime, Katarn still took a serious beating from the fallen Jedi's telekinesis. When going hand-to-hand with the Vong warrior on Ord Sedra, Kyle was forced to soak up multiple physical strikes before he dispatched his opponent. The fact that Darth Kaitis had to resort to sheer overwhelming force to bring down Kyle Katarn demonstrated the physical hardiness that he retained to that age. While Katarn's attention was focused wholly on him, the Sith Lord used telekinesis to pull an approaching airspeeder into Kyle's back, knocking him into Kaitis' extended blade. Though Kyle was successfully extracted, his surviving comrades were still forced to drag him through a kilometer of filthy pipes to get him out. When all was said and done, Katarn had suffered 2 severed ribs, a punctured lung, a perforated shoulder blade from the lightsaber thrust, and had contracted the Afflecaria bug and some opportunistic infections. Furthermore, he was provided with only basic treatment before being smuggled off Coruscant, and was dehydrated and weak when he made it to the Jedi hideout on Endor. Fortunately, Kyle Katarn made a quick and full recovery, and was well enough to return to duty very soon afterwards. Darth Vader and Kyle Katarn are both human males from humble backgrounds, but the similarities ended there. Kyle has taken some major hits, but he is not a limbless burn victim on life support. However, though Katarn has definitely aged much more gracefully, Vader is more machine than man, and all the more dangerous for it. His lightsaber-effective heavy armor and disposable prosthetic add-ons provide him with a substantial margin for error that Katarn doesn't have. His bionic limbs provide enhanced superhuman strength, and the implants stabilizing his vitals allow him to survive truly catastrophic injuries far and above anything Kyle has endured. Kyle's Merson deflector shield really does not compare to Sith dark armor, and let's not forget that Vader has killed a man with his own severed arm. However, Kyle is by no means helpless. He has extensive experience against the Cortosis-armored Dark Troopers and successfully contended with the superhuman strength of Desan. Furthermore, his agility and dexterity were completely unimpaired, advantages that Vader can deal with, but has come up short against when in the right hands. Lastly, Katarn is capable of Force Lightning, meaning that Vader's vulnerability against energy-based attacks is quite relevant. Though I ultimately consider Vader to possess the overall advantage thanks to his superhuman strength and durability, these advantages are undercut by Katarn's experience and power set. Vader will not be able to coast on endurance and strength, and this fight will be decided by combat skill and power in the Force. But be that as it may, Darth Vader gets the edge for physical ability.